Most people think that spring is the best time to sell a house in Carroll County. Well, most people are also wrong. I analyzed 11 years of closed sales data, and what I found completely flips the conventional wisdom. If you're planning to sell your Lakes region or Mount Washington Valley property, getting your timing right could mean the difference between a quick sale at top dollar or watching your home sit on the market through the slow season. The Carroll County market is different. Picture trying to sell a lakefront property while the snow's melting off the dock. That's the disconnect most sellers create when they follow generic real estate advice. So here's the thing about selling real estate in Carroll County. This isn't Manchester, this isn't Nashua. The market works completely different from what you'll see in southern New Hampshire. And if you don't get that, you're going to make an expensive mistake. Carroll County has some of the most desirable vacation and seasonal properties in New Hampshire. We're talking about the Lakes region, around Winnipesaukee and the Mount Washington Valley. These aren't commuter towns where people try to get to Boston every day. People see them as destinations, second homes, vacation properties, seasonal retirement spots. And that changes everything about when buyers actually look. You know, I've watched sellers list their lakefront properties in March, thinking they're getting ahead of the spring market. And early May are the ones that end up with multiple offers and close for top dollar in June. And wait until you see the actual closing data from August through October. Those 3 months tell a story that most realtors outside this area completely miss. The reason comes down to buyer psychology. The people are looking at properties in Carroll County want to experience what they're buying. They want to imagine themselves on that boat in July. They want to picture the fall foliage from the Mountain View deck. They're not making decisions based on some abstract idea of what the property could be. They're buying a lifestyle, and that lifestyle doesn't really start until the weather turns, which brings us to what the numbers actually show about buyer behavior here. The Carroll County market is different. Over 59% of all sales happen in just 5 months, which means listing outside this window puts you in a pond with very few fish. I pulled every single family home sold here from 2015 to 2025. We're talking about thousands of sales. And the pattern that comes out is so clear you can't ignore it. About 59% of home sales in Carroll County happen between May and September. That's more than half of the entire year's sales packed into 5 months. But here's where it gets really interesting. The peak of the market, measured by the highest number of closed sales, happens August to October. Each of these months accounts for 10.5% of the annual sales. Think about what that means. August, September, and October each represent more than 1/10 of the entire year's sales. That's a huge concentration, and that tells you exactly when the most buyers are active and ready to close. So if you're thinking, well, I'll just list in August, then hold on, because closing in August mean those buyers started looking June or July. The offers came in during the peak summer season. The inspections happened while the weather was perfect and the property was showing at its absolute best. The January through February period shows very low buyer activity at 4.4% to 4.6% of annual sales. That's the slowest time of year. March starts to pick up at 5.3% as the market wakes up from the winter. But the real jump happens in April when demand hits 5.9% as the buyer activity picks up fast. Then May through July delivers strong to peak season activity with 6.9% to 9.2% of the sales. And that's when the market is absolutely humming. Showings are happening consistently, offers are coming in, buyers are motivated and ready to make the move. After those peak months in August through October, November shows 9% as the market starts to cool down, and December drops to 8.1% as activity slows way down because of the holidays. Most people are just going to leave the move to the next year. What this data tells you is simple. If you want top demand, you don't list in April and hope to close in April. You list strategically to close during those peak months when the buyers are competing for properties. So let me break down exactly when to pull that trigger. But before that, if you're planning to sell your Carroll County property in 2026, I work with sellers in the Lakes region, Mount Washington Valley, and throughout our market every day. I can walk you through specific timing strategy for your situation and what your home might be worth right now. I've been moving properties here for 22 years, so trust me, I know this market. My contact information is in the description below. Now let's get back to it. If you're targeting a June closing, your listing date isn't May, it's earlier. And most sellers get this timing completely backward. Your number one option for the highest demand and fastest sale is listing in late April through mid-May, targeting closings in May through July. This timing captures that sharp increase in spring buyer activity while putting your property in a position to close during the strong summer months. Buyers are out looking. The weather is working for showings. Your landscaping's coming to life. Everything's working in your favor. The second strategy, if you're targeting maximum buyer traffic, is listing in early to mid-July to close in July through August. This window puts your property on the market when the absolute highest number of buyers are actively searching. These are people who want to close before school starts. They want to enjoy the property that same summer. They're motivated and they're willing to compete. Option 3 is listing mid to late July for closings in July through September. You still get that very strong buyer pool, but you might face a little bit less competition from other newly listed properties. Some sellers have already committed by this point, so your listing stands out more. And stay tuned, the photography tip I'm sharing in a minute will help your listing get even more attention. It's what separates listings that sell in 30 days from ones that sit for 90. Now, if you have to list later, August is your window for September through October closings. You will still capture that peak closing period we saw in the data. Buyers looking in August are trying to wrap things up before winter, and they tend to be more serious. They know they're running out of time to close on a property and enjoy it before snow flies. These windows aren't random. They're based on actual buyer behavior in this specific market over more than a decade. Understanding where the current market sits helps you use these windows even better. Let's take a look at what it looks like right now. Sellers are getting 97.5% of the asking price right now, but that number hides what's really happening with days on market and how much inventory we've got. As of October 2025, the median sale price in Carroll County hit $497,000, up 8.6% from last year. The median price per square foot jumped to $322, an 11% increase. So prices are climbing, which is a good sign for sellers. But here's the balance. The number of homes sold was 128, down 1.5% from last year. Median days on market went up to 65 days, up 2 days from last year. Now, what this tells me is we're in a moderating market. We're not in that crazy 2021 to 2022 seller's market where everything sold in a weekend with 6 offers over asking, but we're also not in a buyer's market where homes sit on the market for months without price cuts. As I said, late November 2025, sellers are getting an average of 97.5% of their final list price, and we had 3.9 months of inventory. That inventory level suggests a balanced market that doesn't really favor buyer or sellers, though well-priced homes keep selling steadily with a median 55 days on market for homes that sold. What this means for your 2026 sale is that pricing matters more than it did 3 years ago. Condition matters, presentation matters, and timing absolutely matters because you want to be on the market when the most qualified buyers are looking. Let's talk about how to actually make that happen. How to plan your 2026 sale. Most sellers start thinking about listing in April, but the successful ones start getting ready in late January or early February, giving themselves 3 months runway. Sometimes, if you know you're selling the next year, it is good to take photos in the fall when there's still leaves on the trees so that you can hit the market with photos that are appropriate for the season. If your goal is to close in June or July 2026 and capture that peak summer demand, you'll need to start now. And I don't mean to list now, I mean start planning now. Start getting ready in late January or early February. This gives you time to interview realtors, pick the right agent for your property, put together a marketing strategy, and get that house ready. One of the things that separates successful sales from properties that sit is preparation. You can't just decide in April that you want to sell and expect everything to come together perfectly. You need to think through the repairs, the staging, the photography, the pricing strategy, And speaking of photography, here's a tip that can give you a real competitive edge in this market. For properties in a region with heavy snowfall, get your exterior photos taken in the summer or the fall before. Think about it. If you're selling a lakefront property in Wolfboro and you list in May, what does the outside of that property look like? You've got mud season. You've got dead grass coming back to life. You've got snow piles still melting in the shady spots. It's not showing your property at its best. But if you took photos last August when the lawn was green and the flowers were blooming, the lake was sparkling and everything looked perfect, those are the images that sell the lifestyle buyers are buying. These photos show them exactly what they're going to experience when they own this property. So you want to list by early May to catch that surge of buyer activity. This means you need your agent picked by March, you need the prep work done by April, you need your marketing ready to go so that when you hit the market in late April or early May, everything's dialed in and your property looks absolutely spectacular. Some people might think this is too much, but this level of planning changes your position when competing properties hit the market. Now let me show you why this actually matters. Listing in February means fishing in a pond with 4.5% of the year's buyers. Listing in May puts you in front of nearly 10%. That difference is everything. You're not only trying to sell a house, you're competing with every other property on the market for a limited pool of buyers. And in Carroll County, that pool of buyers is heavily packed into specific months. If you list in February, you're fishing in a pond with very few fish. Sure, you might get lucky and find that one buyer who's looking in the off season, but you're going to sit on the market longer. You're going to have fewer showings. You're going to have less leverage when offers finally come in. But if you list strategically in late April or May, you're dropping your hook in a pond that's absolutely full of fish. Buyers are out there actively searching. They're motivated. They're pre-approved, they're ready to make a decision. And when multiple buyers want the same property, that's when you get competing offers. That's when you get terms that work for you as the seller. That's when you get the highest price. I've been doing this for 22 years in New Hampshire. I've seen sellers make the mistake of listing too early because they thought they'd be beating competition. I've seen sellers list too late, missing the peak window. And I've actually seen sellers who timed exactly right and had multiple offers within 2 weeks. The difference between those outcomes isn't luck, it's understanding the market data and using the information to make smart decisions. So here's what you need to do with this information. What to do next. Your calendar and your ideal closing date should drive everything. If you're thinking about selling your Carroll County property in 2026, look at your calendar and work backwards from your ideal closing date. If you want to close in July, you need to list in May. If you need to list in May, you need to start getting ready in February or March. Don't wait until you're ready to list to start talking with real estate agents. Interview agents now. Find someone who really knows Carroll County, who gets the Lakes region, the Mount Washington Valley markets, and who has experience selling properties like yours. This isn't the time to go with your cousin who just got their license or the discount broker who's just going to stick a sign in the ground and hope for the best. If you want to sell, you need a professional. Start getting your property ready now. Walk through your house with a critical eye. What needs to be fixed? What needs to be updated? What needs to be staged better? Make a list and start working through it so you're not rushing to get everything done in April. And if you got a property that really shines in the summer, seriously think about getting those professional photos taken this summer for a potential sale next year. I know that sounds like you're planning way ahead, but those images are going to be one of your most powerful marketing tools. Timing your Carroll County sale right isn't about luck. It's about understanding that 59% of buyers show up in just 5 months and putting yourself in a position to capture them when they're motivated. If you're planning to sell in 2026 and want to know exactly what your property could get in the current market, shoot me an email, adam@thedowgroup.com. I'll walk you through specific timing strategy for your situation and show you what similar homes are actually closing for right now. The sellers who reach out early are the ones who list when the market peaks, not after. And if you're wondering where the wealthiest buyers in New Hampshire are actually looking, check out the video link here. I break down the 7 most exclusive communities where ultra wealthy residents choose to live. If you're selling high-end property or just curious where the top tier of this market works, you need to see this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.